Welcome, welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
So yesterday we were reading the passage where Moses is basically saying to God, I need help. This is just too much. The Israelites are just too much of a burden, and I can't do it. So God actually responds. There are 70 elders, and Moses selects them, six from each tribe. Of course, that makes 72. So we'll catch on to that. That we get dealt with yesterday, and takes the spirit from Moses, the prophetic spirit, and gives some of that to them. And then we read how Eldad and Medad were out in the camp. That would be the two extra, from the 72. So they did not think they were worthy, and they were prophesying in the camp and continuing to prophesy. And that's what we're reading about now. Vayarotz Hanar, and the youth ran Vayaged leMoshe, and said to Moses, he told Moses, Vayomer Eldad Vayomar, and he said, Eldad uMedad mitnabim b'machaneh. Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. So Rashi, Vayarotz Hanar, and the youth ran, Yeshemrim. So this, we don't see the name. Please excuse me 1 second. We don't see the name of this youth. It's just mentioned as a youth. Yeshomrim, they're those who say that they identify him, Gershom ben Moshe, that it was actually Moses' son, Gershom, who ran and told him this. So just trying to fill in any possible spaces, right? Vaya'on Yehoshua bin Nun, Mesharet Moshe Mimkurav. So Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of Moses from his youth, spoke up. Vayomar, and he said, Adoni Moshe, my Lord Moses, Klaim, imprison them or restrain them, stop them, stop Eldad and Medad from doing what they're doing. Okay. So we're going to go here, Rashi here, Klaim, right? So Hatel Alehem. So this is from Sanhedrin, page 6, and it is a very interesting, in some ways ironic comment. It says, "Place upon them Hatel Alehem. Place upon them Tzorchei Tzibur, the needs of the community. In other words, make them responsible for community needs. Vehem kalim me'alehem, and they will stop automatically. It'll automatically remove from them this prophesying that they're doing, which is something to ponder about, right? That taking care of public need, taking care of community needs is possibly one interpretation could be that it is just so all-consuming you don't have time to think about these sorts of things. So, and in the Sifrei, according to the Sifrei Davar Acher, another interpretation, to name El Beit HaKele, place them into a prison. Beit Kele is a prison. Lefi shayu, why? Lefi shahayu mitabim Moshe made, because what was the prophecy they were prophesying? Moshe made, Moses is going to die. Yehoshua machnis et Israel la'aretz, and Joshua is going to bring the Jewish people, the Israelites, into the land of Israel. This, by the way, that edict had not yet been made, so that's why this was a prophecy. It certainly might explain why Joshua would want to stop them out of a sense of loyalty for Moses, and certainly he wouldn't want to be suspected in any kind of way. But it's an interesting thought here as to why this particular prophecy at this particular point in time. But as I'm thinking about it, it seems to me that it's quite possible that this is a response to Moses saying that he had enough, initially saying to God that he just couldn't stand having to bear the responsibility of leading the Israelites anymore. And this in a way, could have been the prophecy as a result. And also the story about Moses striking the rock and being told that he would not enter the promised land. And by extension, of course, he wouldn't be leading the Jewish people into the promised land, the Israelites into the promised land. And that in some senses, Moses had said it about himself, that in some ways he had said words that led to that conclusion. They say, Brit Krutalas Fatayim, that there's a covenant that is cut with or established with one's lips, that sometimes when you say something, you need to be very careful about what you're saying. This is a lovely statement now. Vayomer lo Moshe, and Moses said to him, Hamikane atali, are you jealous on my account? Omi ten kol am Hashem nevi'im. Word not, a word only possible for the entire people, for all the people, the nation of the Lord, to be prophets. Ki ten Hashem et rucho alahim, that the Lord would place His Spirit upon them, and I will always think of my father, my late father, because he loved this passage, and I can hear his voice, discussing it, and just the humility that this shows on the part of Moses. And this little incident right here, in some ways, just really brings to light Moses's quality as a leader, that he put others before himself to such an extent. So it's really, really a beautiful passage here. So, Rashi, Amikane atali, are you jealous on my account? So just simply Rashi is going to put it in straightforward language. Hakin ati ata mikane. Are you jealous for my jealousy? In other words, understood that these people were prophesying. Moses himself was a prophet. He might have been jealous of the fact that they were competition, and Joshua was taking up that particular effort. And of course, Moses is not saying that at all, right? He's saying should only be that everyone have this kind of spirit. Li, to me, literally, kamo bishvili. So he's saying bishvili, for me. Kol lashon kina, Rashi goes on to make a general comment. Kol lashon kina, when we talk about kina, this word kina here, jealousy in this particular case. So think about being jealous. Adam hanoten lev. It refers to a person who sets his mind al hadavar regarding a matter. So he focuses attention on a certain matter. Ol linkom, either to avenge, or la'azor, or to assist. In other words, he becomes concerned about a particular thing. Either it's bothering him in some way, and he feels he needs to get back at that, or he's concerned about it and feels he needs to get into it and help out. And the French word imprison, belas, and I looked up these words actually in Yiddish, so it's interesting, right? Die Aufmelung. So in Yiddish, that means enlightenment. So it has something to do with looking at things with your mind. I mean, it's not. I don't know that it's really a great translation, and possibly the Yiddish of the author here is different from current Yiddish. So the other thing, this made in some ways sense here. Erreifering, which he said is surrender. So a sin. So in some senses, again, it's talking about a mental exercise. That there's something taking hold of you that you're. And in German, Erreiferung, I tried to think of the Yiddish word in German. It means excitement. But again, it's talking about a particular way in which one is looking at something and being stirred up over it. So here we go. Another effort on Rashi's part. Ochez ba'ovi hamasa. one who grabs hold of, or causes to grab hold of. Ovi is the thickness, hamasa, of the burden. In other words, he takes to heart the matter in a particular way, right? In a heavier kind of way. Let's try to deconstruct what we mean here when it talks about jealousy. So let's go on here. Vaye'asef Moshe al hamachaneh, and Moses gathered, literally it means into the camp, who he v'ziknei Israel, and the elders of Israel. Remember, he had been told to select them. Let's take a look at it. Vaye'asef Moshe. Moses was, and I believe it, you might almost say Moses was gathered. It might be actually a passive voice. So, so from where to where? Where did he go? Mipetach om hamoed. So he left the entrance of the tent of meeting. This is where he and those 70 elders were, and he left that entrance and went into his tent. It looks like. Let me look. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. Doesn't say there, but we'll see. El hamachaneh. Here we go. Into the camp. So Rashi says, Nichnasu ish lo holo, that every person there went back into his own tent. They retired to their tents. Vayasef. Let's see, this Vayasef. Lashon knisa el bayit. It has the connotation of entering into a house. Right, so was gathered, something was, or entered in melamed. Come on, here we are. There's some other examples that Rashi's giving. Deuteronomy 22, v'asafto el toch beitecha. Okay, and you shall gather it into your house. So le'esof means essentially to gather. V'av lakulam, he says in the most, I think he says the most basic form of this, which perhaps he's also saying, Rashi's also saying that it gives the clearest meaning of it. And that's Psalm 39, Yitzbor, that a person, this is not a good person, a wicked person, shall gather, velo yeda mi osfam. So he will gather things together, but he won't know who brought them in. Melamed. So this teaches and implies shelo hevi aleim puranut. This is getting back to the context that we're talking about with the Israelites, because we know that there was punishment that was going to be associated with their request here, their angry request for meat, etc. Okay, so that he did not bring upon them their punishment ad shenichnasu hatzedikim ish leholo, until the righteous people, that is the elders, right, around Moses, went back into their tents. This is from the Sifrei. So the punishment did not start until that happened. So they weren't present around to have that kind of positive influence. Veruach nasa, and a wind passed over, Me'et Hashem, from the Lord. Vayagos salvim min hayam, and it caused quail to fly from the sea, probably Mediterranean, I would guess, right? Vayitosh al hamachaneh, and they were scattered over the encampment. Kederech yom ko, kederech yom ko. So the distance is measured by time here. In other words, there were so many of them that you'd have to walk a day's distance to be able to get a sense of how many there were. So tremendous area being covered, the distance one can walk in a day. Svivot hamachaneh, all around the camp. Ucha amatim al pnei haaretz, and about 2 cubits over the surface of the earth. In other words, They weren't actually, we'll see that they weren't over on the ground, but they would be at a height. You could find them at a height of 2 cubits, is how Rashi's understanding this. So we'll see right now. Vayagos. So it says Vayafriach. In other words, he caused them to fly. And Chen Tehillim Lamed, Tzadik, excuse me, we see also in Psalm 90, Ki Gaz Chish, etc., talks about the days of a man's life, that they fly by quickly. The years of our lives fly by quickly. Nahum Aleph in the first chapter of the prophet Nahum, uh, Nago, looks like Nagozu Va'avar, right? They fly and pass by. Vayitosh, this means to spread. Vayifshot, he spread around. Kamo, and this is like Samuel, the first book of Samuel, chapter 30. Hinam netushim al pnei kol haaretz. Behold, they were scattered around over the surface of the earth, of the ground here, I think. And then Ezekiel 29, unetashticha hamidbara. I will spread you out into the wilderness. Ucha amatayim, and about 2 cubits. So what was going on here? Porachot, that is that they flew, begova, at that height, ad shehen keneged libor, to a height where they were opposite the heart shel adam, of a person. Kedei, why? Kedei shelo yehe toreach basifatam, so that he wouldn't have to go to a lot of trouble in gathering them up. Lo lahagbia, in other words, not to be, I believe, not to raise up, okay, from the ground. Velo lishchot, and nor did he need then to bend down. This person didn't bend down either to get them. It was just at basically counter height, right? Vaya, sorry. I just want to make sure again, I don't want to leave anything out. Vayakom ha'am kol hayom hahu, and the people arose that entire day, v'chol halayla, and that entire night, v'chol yom hamacharat, and the entire day following, vayasfu et haslav, and they gathered the quail, hamamit, and the person who gathered the least, asaf asara chomarim, he gathered 10 chomers. I don't remember exactly what the modern equivalent is of a chomer, but I'm going to imagine that was a lot of quail. Vayishtuchu lahem shatoach, and they spread them out, okay, svivot hamachaneh, all around the encampment. So let's take a look. Hamamit, the one who gathered the least. Misha asaf pachot mikulam. Atzilim. Okay, so in other words, we're talking about one who gathered less than everybody else, namely people who were lazy. Let's see, v'hachagavim asa asaracha. This, I'm looking to see what asaf asaracharim. Lauren, do you have a translation for chagarim here?
Um,
Do you have?
let's see, Asaf, Asaka, Cham. Well, mine says those who collected least of all, the lazy and the lame.
Okay.
Did 10
Oh,
Chomer.
Higer. I couldn't think of it. Thank you. Okay, cool. Very good. Thank you.
Hachigrim.
Yes, the lame, right. Higer is lame. Thank you. Huh.
And I looked up 10 Chomer. A
Yeah.
Chomer, it said, was 65 imperial
Oh
gallons.
my heavens. Wow. So 650 gallons,
And
huh?
that's dry weight.
Wow. Huh. Wow, that's a lot. So let's put this down here. Okay. So how much did you say it was 60 imperial gallons?
65.
55 imperial gallons.
6.5.
Yes, 65. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Um, also, there's one more little Rashi.
Oh, okay. Let's take a look. Okay, let's see. Okay. Vayishtachu. Okay. So, okay. So it looks like they made like rugs out of them, a shatiach, I believe, right? A su'otan mashtichin. How does he understand? How do they understand this word mashtichin?
It says many layers.
Ah,
They
okay.
spread them in many layers.
Okay. Thank you. I just didn't have a chance to get to this particular
Are
part.
they talking about quails?
Yes, yes.
Layers of birds.
Layers of quails.
Dead quails?
I would assume so. I would assume so. So I'm going to stop here because what follows is pretty awful. This is where the punishment happens, and sadly, for their greed. So it's right here. All right, very good. I'm going to stop the share. Yeah. All right. Any comments for the record? Just comments on human nature. And right, remember they had the manna and they were complaining about the manna. So anyway, okay, that is it for today.